the economic model work? Does the people culture work? Does,
That's right.
what's it like for supply chain to get up there? All those little, nuances that it takes or the importance is to run a business, whether it's domestic or internally. I knew that was going to be critiqued at a very high level. So,
That's right.
and it was, I didn't bat an eye at it. I wanted it. I knew that it could be a one-way ticket. I can still be in Canada, but I knew if I didn't take that risk, then, potential great things wouldn't open up after that. So it didn't take much convincing to convince my wife and our son to go. And we did. We moved up there summer of 2008, opened up the restaurant there in kind of the Times Square of Toronto in Dundas Square.
Yep.
And it took off like a rocket ship. And really, basically, the thing that kept me grounded and focused during that whole time, and it's something I still hold on to today, is what are the three key ingredients? We need a great space, we need great people, and we need great food.
Yep.
And with that, there's going to be distractions and things pulling you here and there. But if everything that I'm doing is focusing on one of those three things, or is going to impact one of those three things, then I'm probably going in the right direction. And that was it. And so I leveraged and my experience as being a restaurateur in Round Rock and just brought that up, whether it was faith or ignorance. Hey, why not? We're going to hire great people. We're going to train them. I had to learn some cultural nuances because Toronto is arguably one of the most culturally diverse cities on the planet. Folks from all over the world live there. And that is something that I really enjoyed, was finding folks from different cultures and getting them to buy in, believe, align with the people culture we had in Chipotle, which was great people taking care of each other and the guest.
Well, and I'd love to go back to something that you said just a second ago, because I don't want to miss this, and I want everyone to capture this. You said that you went into this just believing that it could be what it should be, right? Like, you didn't really know the people, you didn't really know the culture there, you didn't really, but you kind of called it blind faith or whatever. But the reality is that's what great leaders do. Great leaders go, look, I don't care what you throw at me. Like, we can do this because people are people, and we can create a culture that is super strong, that results in the type of operational experience that we want to have, that's going to be able to build sales, grow profits, do all those things that we know we have to do. If we want to expand internationally, right? We cannot go to Canada and we can't fail, right? We just can't fail, right? So, and in all the time leading up to you leaving, and all the time after you got there, like, you never once wavered from that belief that we can make this great. We can chase excellence and we can make it happen. And I think that's really important versus going into it going, I'm not sure, like, there's a lot of unknown, like, all those things are true, right? We don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, right? We don't know if it's going to work or not, but we are behaving in such a way that that's how we act. And so therefore we do, right? So I think that's really important for people to capture.
Yeah. If it wasn't going to work, it wasn't going to be due to a lack of effort.
That's right.
Yeah. It was focusing on the people, both the team members and the guests, was the key to that recipe. Number one ingredient. I
think what we learned, and you can validate it, but I think what we learned as an organization through you opening Canada is that the people culture actually does work. It does matter. Culture does matter, and that we can create something really special no matter what part of the world we're in.
Totally agree.
And I think that's really, really important. That's really important. So you were in Canada for how long?
2 years.
2 years.
And so after being there a year, so this is mid-July of 2009, working in the restaurant. It's a shift change, so I'm doing the cash outs and all that from the AM shift, getting ready for PM shift, and office phone rings, and I say, hey, thanks for calling Chipotle Dundas Square. This is Damon. How can I help you? He says, hey, Damon, it's Steve. I said, Steve who? said, Steve L. Who else? I was like, oh, hey, Steve, what can I do for you? And he says, hey, quick question. Can you speak French? And I said, no. And in my head, I'm like, French. Okay, we're in Toronto. Montreal's like 5 hours up the street. Maybe he wants to grow into Montreal. And he says, do you think he could learn? I said, sure. Why? He's like, just gauging interest to see if he'd be interested in moving to Paris, France, and opening up restaurants for us there. And I was like, absolutely. What, like right now? Do you want me to go now? And he's like, no. Just interest right now. We're just kind of planting the seeds and seeing if it's feasible. And he goes, but okay, so you're interested. I've got you on the list. And I was like, do you need anything from me? He's like, nope. Hangs up the phone, and I about bust out of my skin. So I had been in Toronto for 11 months, and I get a call from the CEO asking if I could move to Paris. And, that is just that is a moment in my life that will stick with me forever. I mean, that was just everything that I've been working towards, both individually, but knowing that opportunity wouldn't have presented itself if, to the point, we didn't have the people culture. No, and building the brand through people. That was the payoff, so to speak.
Well, and I just love that story because one, it is so Steve, but two, it just, you're absolutely right. It speaks to what he knew to be true, right? Which, he knew what you had created up there. He knew how that was going. And that gave him confidence to be able to explore these other opportunities, right? That ended up coming to pass. And I think that's a huge, huge testament to you and your leadership and also the team that you built, right? Because we all know that it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the team that we build. Right. And so I think that's, and then again, that gets back to culture. So that's fantastic. So it was about another year then before you made the move.
Yeah. So I was part of a team of 3, and we opened up first location in London in May of 2010 and moved the family to France that summer. So I was assisting with the London opening, learning, everything. Just on the inside the 4 walls of getting food in there, getting the space right, working with contractors on, what does a poof look like? Like, what the heck is a poof? Or the seats we sat on there. And just securing supply chain, getting, folks hired. Again, London is another incredibly cosmopolitan city.
Right.
Learning what worked in Toronto, leaned on that in London. And we hired a great team of all the high potential, top performing folks. And that restaurant opened up really well. And so then I moved off to France, and I was peppering Steve with a whole bunch of questions and supply chain and HR folks, because France has a reputation of being an incredibly difficult place to hire and to hold, and 35-hour work week, and I'm peppering him with all these things. It's like, Damon, stop. He's like, how much money do you need? And I was like, excuse me? He's like, how much money do you need? And so I paused for a moment. That was his way of basically empowering me to go and do what needed to be done, and basically replicate what we've done and what I did in Round Rock in Toronto, and it was a part of the team effort in London. And that's where I kind of paused and said, got it, Steve, I'm on it. And as I mentioned earlier, 3 things: need a great space, need great food with a great team. And that was my trajectory. And we did it. We opened up. It took a while. It took a long time to get everything in order, but a lot of it was just navigating, doing business in our first non-Anglo-Saxon country. And but we did it. We opened up in May of 2012 to grave reviews, and it fit into the Parisian food culture really well, because there was the typical fast food, there was the sit-down restaurants, but that fast casual segment, we basically defined it out there, and it took off.
It's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
As I knew we would, we ran out of time. So I'm going to ask you a question. So would you be willing to join me for a follow-up podcast? Because
absolutely.
We are not even through the intro section yet, but this is such great content that I want to capture. It may take 2 more, but we are going to get this done. So I want to tell you again how much I appreciate you making the time. And I look forward to us being able to have the next conversation, which will make happen very, very soon.
Sounds great, Bobby. My absolute pleasure, and look forward to speaking again soon.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for listening to part 1 of this podcast with Damon Biggins. Thought it was just an amazing conversation, and we look forward to part 2 of that conversation next week. And also just want to remind everyone, if you like this podcast, please, wherever you consume content, please leave us a rating and some comments. That helps us stay relevant in podcast land, where there's a million different podcasts out there, but I contend there's not quite a podcast like this. So that's what I'm hanging my hat on. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please subscribe and please leave comments and please leave us a rating, and we'll see you on the other side.